So, 7 o'clock, it is July 28th. I've been writing the wrong date all day. It's July 28th, 7 o'clock on Thursday. This is the Town Council monthly meeting. I welcome all of you here. Thank you for attending. I have called us to order. I'm going to do the roll call. Before we approve the agenda, we're going to make an amendment. Okay, so roll call. I know Marjorie is out. She's traveling. Larry?
Here.
Bill Goldsmith?
Here.
Mary?
Here.
Steve?
Here.
Bill?
Here.
Mayor is here. We also have our illustrious staff and several wonderful members of the community here. Okay, let's stand. And, well, she's part of the staff. Say the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Garth, would you like to tell us what your amendment to the agenda is?
You have a little packet in front of you. Latney Montague has requested a modification to the roof of his marina, and VMRC is requiring that he get approval from his adjacent landowners, which happen to be us.
Okay,
So,
where do you want to insert that?
under new business.
Okay. Just before or after the yearly report?
It'll be after the, actually, let's put it under old business, item D,
Okay,
after the boundary line adjustment.
okay. Thank you.
And we would, do we have to have a motion? Don't they have
Yes,
to
someone needs to make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I move to accept the agenda as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. Larry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
I vote yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Move on to the minutes for July 14th. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, take a vote. Larry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Steve?
Abstain, was not here.
Okay. Bill?
Yes.
And Mayor votes yes. Thank you, that passes. And let's get to the reports. Town Administrator.
Okay. We're happy to report that we have the audit reports for 19, 20, and 21.
1920.
Yay.
It's about time.
Oh, it took them a while.
And we're in good shape financially, and our numbers are in order, and we have increased our net worth each year as is appropriate. The total, and these will be on hand and will be posted, but if y'all care to take a look at them, we have them here now. But 2019, we had a total of $3,175,537. In 2020, we were at $3,448,605. And then in 2021, we were at $3,556,631. So each year has been an increase. So they're here for you to look at. So,
Thank you.
Is that total value, Golf? Does that include property and all that? too?
yes,
That includes general fund and water fund and everything.
yeah.
Tabor,
And-
everything.
And
Okay.
thanks to Roy, he had worked with Miss Davis, the auditor, and there was a figure in there where we were showing
There was a
that we had
discrepancy.
outstanding balance, and Roy took care of that.
That
So
was resolved.
he resolved it and got it taken away.
Okay. Thank you, Roy.
The land boundary adjustment, we had our first meeting with the county officials today. Matt Walker, the county administrator, and Heather Lewis, and the meeting went well. And this was just a preliminary meeting for us to kind of figure out who's doing what to who, and we're developing a plan of action, and we'll start moving forward from here. So it was a good meeting.
Good.
We received the town hall appraisal this afternoon, as a matter of fact, and I'm happy to report that our appraisal has come back at $367,000.
Really?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
So,
Now we gotta get it.
Take
I've
it.
got the complete report, and I will be forwarding that to each of y'all so that you can look at it.
Thank you.
I was pleased, so.
Yeah,
Good.
Well,
you did the right thing.
Removal of old power poles in the town. We received notice from Breeze Line that they had submitted a work order to transfer their lines from the old poles, the Virginia power poles, to the new poles. And this project should be underway soon. And once Breeze Line removes their wires, then Verizon is already on standby and waiting, and then they will transfer their lines to the new poles, and then it'll be up to Virginia Power to remove the old poles and then we can make the necessary repairs to the sidewalks. So we're moving along in that order. I was pleased to get a call back from Breeze Line. So and I think we talked about this at the last meeting, but there's a pecking order how that has to be done. And Virginia Power takes the lead. They put the new poles in, and then it's up to Breeze Line is the next, and then Verizon is last. So, and they have to, each time they have to get permission from Virginia Power to make this happen. So, cigarette tax, we received a check for $1,150.72 for the month of June. Last month, we received a check for $1,087.41 for May, and this makes 2 months in a row that we've received over $1,000 for our little cigarette tax thing. So, as you know, these funds are placed in an account for the town's Scottish Factor
Store.
Museum. So, it's not doing too bad. Pool committee, you want me to go on into the pool committee now?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
The pool committee met last Wednesday. Wayne Savage from Bay Design was in attendance, and soil samples have been taken for the pool site. There was some confusion about what we were doing as far as Bay Design is concerned about where the pool site was going to be. They were using the LPDA
Plan.
plan, and so they took the soil samples from that, and we had a telephone conversation with Bay Design.
That's unusual.
Yeah.
They don't fire that off often.
She said just before the tornado hit us.
The town manager was still giving his report.
That's right.
I am.
Anyway, we had a telephone conversation with Bay Design, Paddock Pools, the architect, and the contractor, and this doesn't seem to be a problem, and it's not gonna impact the cost as originally impacted, as originally thought. So, actually, it could be a blessing in disguise, because this allows us to put the bathrooms, the concession stand, and the pump house over towards offsetting from the playground, and we can use those bathrooms and have entry from the pool and also from the park, which will allow us to be able to have bathrooms in the park year-round.
Which was our original design anyway. And so what we are doing at this point now is we're actually moving the pool back to where LPDA had
And then
said.
fill in,
And filling in the other so that we can have the tennis courts and the pickleball where the pool
Yeah,
is
right.
now.
correct.
Okay.
Andrea has filed a motion with the court regarding the use of table funds to help pay for the pool costs. And I'll just let you know, Wayne with Bay Design, he's expressed concern about the ability for us to meet our Memorial Day 23 opening due to DEQ issues. Ward Hamilton with Paddock Pools, he's sticking with that timeline, and so
So
we'll
the,
see.
the experts
He's
don't
trying to
agree.
Hold
Okay.
to the schedule, so.
Okay.
Progress is being made, I guess that's the bottom line.
Garth, can I ask a question now, or would you rather I hold it later? If it's about the pool.
Go ahead and ask it now.
The DEQ approval, is that focusing simply on the water and the quality that goes into the pool? Or is it relative to the whole site and runoff? What is it, what affects that?
Honestly, the whole site,
Uh-huh.
according to Roy.
Yeah, so what they're looking at is, are we doing what's required to remediate the site and its runoff into Perkins Creek? Drainage. Okay.
So Mr. Savage is basically saying that he always is required to do that, and Paddock Pools is saying we've already taken all of that into consideration and we shouldn't have to deal with that.
Oh.
So we have two
Okay,
different opinions, yeah.
that's okay.
Garth, which court are we dealing with in regards to the taper money?
Which court?
Yeah.
Middlesex Circuit?
Circuit Court, yeah, thank you.
Is that Judge Shaw?
Yes.
Okay. Garth, you've got more?
That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we check off Administrator and Pool. Treasurer's report.
As per email out, I would like to mention that there was an uptick in the lodging tax. Larry had emailed me. That's a reflection of delinquent taxes. I have really been going after these folks. We also are experiencing another issue from a company that collects the tax and then mails it to us on behalf of the rental. And Andrea's gonna step in and help me because I've just hit walls. But we have maybe $1,000 in the vault that I cannot post because we do not know who to post to credit that account. So, we had talked and I had given her a lot of information earlier, so she's gonna step in and help me with that.
My understanding of that was that you were just getting a lump sum and they weren't identifying which homeowners, which Airbnb owners had submitted it.
That's correct, and there are other agencies, and what they do is they will give me the street address, the gross, and then the 5%. So it's very easy to go in and credit it all out. But this one particular company I have no idea who to credit.
Thank you.
The other thing is, we did request the funds, the 58,000 from the money market cash reserve. They have not arrived, but that was requested. And, we also, as per report, we pulled the 9,375 out of the historic trust to pay for the painting of,
The museum.
the museum.
And the 58,000 that you're talking about gets added to the 36,000 which showed up in the pool fund reserve. So the pool fund reserve will come close to doubling. Is that correct?
Well, are we going to put it into the truest pool fund reserve, or are we going to put it into,
That's my understanding. I think the motion was very clear on that.
well, we also have a reserve account within the budget, so I don't have the notes in front of me. The funds were requested, and, if that's where they're supposed to go, then that's where they'll go. I don't remember off the top.
Yeah, they're
seeing
supposed to
that.
be tucked in with the 36,000 which was set aside to replace
And
the
then
pool.
they will be deposited to the trust.
What funds we talking about here? I'm confused.
This is the 58,000
Right, it was the
that you
excess
got
cash.
really excited about because it's holdover from prior administration.
Okay.
They hadn't done anything with the money. They let it sit in cash. Nobody's done anything with it. And I made the case that, look, how can we go out and seek support from the public for funds to build a pool when we have 58,000 in our own cash kitty and we can't even take the time to put it into the correct reserve fund to show a buildup in reserve? It doesn't make sense.
So you want to put it in the pool fund?
Yes, sir.
Well, that makes sense.
Right, and we passed that.
We passed
Yeah,
it.
we did. We did.
Yep. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Michelle, anything else?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Michelle, these rental properties interest me. I hope we're getting all of them. And maybe we need to think about whether we got too many or not. We need to know exactly what we got.
What I personally do every so often is I search Airbnb, Vrbo, so I go out to these sites, and that is how the bulk of them were bought.
Good for you.
We had one rental that started, almost 3 months ago and never applied. And I was able to contact them and say, look.
You're out of compliance.
Thank you for that. I think that's what it's going to take.
Right.
You know.
I think so too.
Yeah.
At this time.
I think so too.
Yeah, and we need to be watching this closely to make sure we don't have 75% rentals in this town and
Yes.
25% of us just living here.
Right. We
Exactly.
want to maintain the neighborhoods.
So we got to watch this thing to see
And-
where it's going.
And no rental properties for residents to rent.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we as a town need to look at, and other towns are looking at it. I think Williamsburg you live in Williamsburg, I think they have put some rules down in regards to this, pretty strict rules. I'm not saying we need to do that.
Well,
but I'm just saying we need to keep an eye on this thing.
we did talk about this 4 years ago.
We have talked about,
Right.
Yeah.
you're correct, probably
Yeah.
before that.
And we did set up some guidelines, and I think we need to go over and review them and make sure that they are as they should be at this point.
That's fine. I just, as they come up, we also, want to catch them to make sure that and that's a way of seeing what we got too,
Yep.
as to how many we have.
Thank you for your diligence,
Yeah.
Michelle.
Great stuff.
I've got one further question that you all might be able to answer for me. Dr. Goldsmith had pointed out, it was quoted in the paper by Tom Chalemi, that we had made $2,300 at the marina. And the problem with that is it doesn't clarify that we spent $17,000, I think, on the ramp, which is not an ongoing, regular operating expense. If it were a business, if we were a business, it would be a capital, item, a capital expenditure. The truth of the matter is we made close to $20,000 at the marina. We just happened to choose to spend 17,000 of that on the ramp. Would that be more accurate?
Was that money previously in the budget for the ramp?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Yeah.
But-
that
Yes.
money was appropriated
It was.
already.
Yes,
Okay.
such.
So-
everything
such
was
as we
accounted
don't
for.
You're saying you spent,
Appropriate.
you know, when it's already been appropriated and unappropriate and unspent funds, then, you know, basically you're back down to brass tacks on whether you $20,000 would hit?
Well, for this period, you earned $20,000. You brought in 23,000 in cash, roughly, of which 17,000 you happen to spend in cash.
But
on the
that's
ramp.
a separate item though, isn't it?
That's
If
all.
you bring in $20,000 and you already have a budget item out here that you've already
And we're talking.
funds for, then you
We're-
really
Yeah.
aren't messing with this side.
No, we're talking about real numbers,
Appropriate
Bill.
funds.
It's different from budget, okay? We're talking about real numbers, actual revenue, as opposed to
Right,
the budget.
actual revenue, that money we had set aside for the ramp should not count toward the revenue for the marina.
Because
No,
that
it
was
isn't
revenue
really set
we had gotten
aside, though.
before.
We
don't
don't really
really-
have a process of appropriating funds and setting them aside. This was a conversation we had last fall,
Yeah,
was
and-
how many motions had we made that obligated money for certain things, and yet we were not tracking at all what was being spent on what, or what actually had we already agreed to spend money on. And there was, maybe there still is not, any tracking system for that. So we
No,
don't
there-
really have appropriations.
Well, in a way, they're not appropriations, but we created line items
We voted to
within the
pass-
budget, so,
pass them.
so none of this is a surprise. This was
Shouldn't
all
be.
pre-planned. And it's just a matter of,
I'm just saying in actual funds.
Yeah.
What we took in last year, as Dr. Goldsmith is referring to, he's referring to the actual
The net.
cash over expense.
Right, the actual
The net.
net.
The
And,
net.
and what you're pointing out is
And
that
my
if we were
pointing
a
out,
business,
If you
that
were a
would be
business,
amortized over time.
It- well, basically, you made 20,000, of which you decided to spend at a previous time. 17,000 of that, you had it and you spent it on the ramp. So I look at it.
It's a net amount.
Well, yes. And the thing of it is, we have people amongst us that are trying to make it a case that we don't make any money at the marina,
Oh.
okay? And so when you say, oh, we only made 2,300, you need to color that with
Then
the
it's
fact
net.
that you need to color it with the fact that you spent 17,000 on a capital expenditure, an improvement that has a useful life beyond the immediate 12 months.
okay,
So
Thank
we
you.
should make 22,000 next year, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Or we will have money to make other capital improvements.
Okay.
There
which
you
is
go.
usually the case. Okay, let's move on to the next item. You're finished? Michelle, thank you very much. Okay, Water Committee.
All right, the water committee did not meet. There's only 2 open items. I wrote everybody that was on the water committee and thought that in the 10 minutes that we were going to discuss this is probably not worth our time, so I put it down in the email. Everyone seemed to agree with me. Item number 1 is well number 6 has been staked out and approved location by VDH.
Good.
Our next steps are a DEQ permit, and they're the engineers are putting together now the bid documents for the town and USDA to review, and then we're moving forward there. Next item on it was, I wrote this down. Yeah, the water system upgrades, 5-phase water system upgrades. We got the application for our review yesterday. I went through it today. We have a meeting, Zoom meeting set up with the engineers next Tuesday at 10 a.m. to go over that. Our VDH application is for $7.6 million for all 5 phases. We're going for the whole enchilada. See what we can get. But we're gonna gonna go through the application with the engineers on next Tuesday. Then I have some questions for him. I know Roy, when he reviews it, he'll have questions, and I've sent it to the other two water committee members. I did not send it to you, Martha. Would you like it? Okay. I'll send it to you, just because of that.
It'll be good reading over the weekend.
Yes.
Yeah. The attachment's 234 pages.
Oh, wow.
And you emailed this to everybody?
No,
Okay,
this is water committee stuff,
okay,
He's,
and it's reviewing documents,
gotcha.
and we're moving forward.
he's giving us a summary report.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that is it.
thank you. Okay, that brings us to Planning Commission.
Okay, so the most recent thing with Planning Commission is the internet survey on quality internet that closed on the 15th. And I have kind of an initial summary. There are copies of the all data and the trending data on the back countertop, if you want to take them. And they're in our packets. Yes, they are in our packets, but they are also, if the public wants them, they're there in the back. And I've tried to just pull some of the kind of the high points on what we learned, which pretty much reinforced what we already knew, but now we have data that reinforces what we already thought. And so I can get in touch with Kevin Gentry and we can take it the next step from there. So just a couple of the high points. Most Breeze Line respondents have internet only. They don't have internet and TV, which was a surprise to me. So I thought that was interesting. Peak times of use were 5 to 10 p.m. in the evening, but they were almost as high for both the morning time and the after. They were equal from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. We were trying to look at, time of day when use was the heaviest. 57% of all Breeze Line respondents had Breeze Line equipment. So that I thought was interesting, because if you have their equipment, shouldn't it work with their system? Okay, at least that's the way my mind works. All right, 61% were either not satisfied or somewhat satisfied. So the two lowest levels of satisfaction. That was 61%. There were 8.86% of respondents were very satisfied. Most people lose connectivity multiple times per day. That was 80.97%, okay? Length of outage was equal for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or more than 15 minutes. So, and that was 82.27 among those equal numbers. Customer service wait, 51.47% said 1 hour plus, okay? So that was just, those are just, again, these are things that any of us who use it, we could say the same thing, but there we have it. Some anecdotal problems in the comments were interesting. Things like business disruptions. A lot of people complained about business disruptions, both people who have business accounts as well as people who work from home. Inadequate speed was in almost every comment. Disruption, frequent loss of connectivity, almost every comment. Customer service, 1 hour plus average wait. Increased cost, decreased quality of service comments. When people call Breeze Line, they say there is no record of an outage or the record has been erased. I had that happen last Friday, so that rang true for me as well. Okay, let me see. Now, I had a service tech call me last Friday because Kevin Gentry told him to call me. He thought it was because of my personal internet problems, which I do have personal internet problems, but I thought he was calling because of this. So we had an interesting discussion, and I now have his telephone number. And there were a couple of things that I learned. One was that there is that they replaced a relay. And I asked what part of town the relay provided service for. He said the whole town. They replaced that about 2 weeks ago, so that's almost 3 weeks ago now, because this was last Friday. He said one of the problems is that there is an optic lens that was supposed to also be replaced at that time, and there was either a faulty part or for whatever reason they didn't do it. They're waiting for that part. He thinks that will make a difference. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm just telling you what I know. and that all of the town is being impacted by this, is what he said. We also talked about, there are funds, VATI funds for rural broadband. These are federal funds. And it focuses on areas that do not currently have access to broadband. Well, Middlesex County was one of those. So, as a result of the VATI funds, they are getting fiber optic broadband, which is much higher quality than what we have. And I asked, we're part of the county, why can't we have that too? You know what the answer is? Because we have existing internet.
Wait a minute, who answered that question? The
This was the
technician?
technician.
Oh,
Okay, so I'm just telling you what I know so far. It's gonna take a while.
What did he
Partly
s- what
because
did
I
he
work
say?
full-time, so trying to, do this on top of that is hard.
What did he say?
He said that the town already has existing internet. The
Okay.
county did not. So the VATI funds are for, according to him, and according to what I've read, but I don't know that this is actually true, they are for not underserved localities. They are for localities that do not have access, currently do not have access.
Yeah, all the areas in Middlesex that have access fall in the same problem we have.
Yes,
Where they're talking about is a Jamaica district that has nothing.
nothing.
And they've gotten a considerable, I don't know, 4.5 million. I
Yeah,
forget,
4.5 million.
something like that.
Something like that.
But, I mean, those people are desperate down there. When we went through
Yeah.
COVID and school, children couldn't have,
And they couldn't.
Right.
they had to
To-
drive up to St. Clair Walker and.
Children had
yeah.
to sit in the parking lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
To get
it's
internet.
not a
To get Wi-Fi.
situation where, well, you make it sound like, well, because we had it, we can't get it. They're trying to help people that don't
Oh,
have it
no,
at
they
all.
are. Oh,
No,
I'm not
right.
complaining
Yeah,
about
right.
that at all. I am
Yeah.
not complaining about that at all. I know that they need it. I know that they need it. The question is, if it is far superior quality internet, why can't we get it too? You know, that's
Well,
my.
it's a good
And what
point.
they're saying is that they're not going to improve our stuff until everybody has something. And the technology.
No, I don't know if that's what they're saying or not. That would be,
You're just
That
talking
would
to a
be-
technician. I mean, the guy,
I'm just talking to, it was like
Yeah.
the head tech, but anyway. Yeah, so anyway, it's something I think for us to pursue, to find out.
I
You
agree.
know what?
I agree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't begrudge anybody getting good quality internet.
Well,
I'd
from
like us to
Lane
have it
View
too.
to here, they haven't had anything. And
I know
that's-
it.
And that's not been fair, because from Deltaville to Urbana, they have it in
Right.
most places.
Right. Right. So, anyway, that is where I am so far. One of the things that Martha and I have been working on, and it's gonna take some time because it wasn't as easy as simply, extracting from the Excel spreadsheet the addresses. I didn't ask people for names. I wanted addresses so that we could map where service is okay and where it's not okay, just in case there was something, particular to that. And the only thing that I can say is I noticed, because I'm on Watling Street, and I think our street, Larry, actually was on the survey the most.
Okay.
We had 8 people who respond on Watling Street, and I think that's out of maybe 15 residences if you include all 4 apartments in Haywood Store. And so, yeah.
Good for us.
Yeah, I know it, except for we were all very unhappy. We were all very unhappy with the quality of our internet. So, just anecdotally, I did notice that, so. And I don't know if anybody has any other questions about this, but again, the next thing is to go with Kevin Gentry, see if we can get some kind of remedies from Breezeline, so we can have better quality internet.
So I pulled up the guidelines and criteria for VATI,
Yes?
and it says eligible areas. DHCD will award funding to applicants to provide last-mile services, including middle-mile networks, equipment, or other investments required to deliver last-mile service to unserved areas of the Commonwealth. Unserved areas are defined as having broadband speeds below 100 megabits per second download and 20
Ooh.
megabits upload.
Ooh.
Noticed here.
So we need to look that up.
Areas lacking 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload speeds will be given significant priority in application scoring. So I'll send you the.
Would you please?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'd be great, because I believe we're below that.
Actually, I think the lines that we have you can go up to 250 down and 50 up.
The question is whether or not people are actually getting
No,
that
we're,
speed.
we're not getting
We're
it.
not getting the speed, because I have a,
Right.
I have a thing that measures it, and I've never gotten up to 100.
Well, just anecdotally from myself at my business, I talk to them with some frequency. I don't know why. But I was saying, well, I've got the highest speed here at work, don't I? And they said, oh, no, you've got the lowest speed. I'm like, well, when I put it in, it wasn't.
Yeah.
So the question is, what happened between then and now?
Well, Breezeline is a conglomerate that is actually headquartered in Pennsylvania, and they have they provide service for very large parts of underserved and rural areas throughout Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and that kind of region. I don't know, probably some other states as well. They also, Tom Chalemi sent me an article, I think it was from the Multi-Service Broadband Association. So it was like a trade award from within their trade for Breezeline having the best, I don't know, maybe making the most money?
It was Cable Works or something like that.
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
magazine
Yeah.
That were Ethos.
Yes, yes. So I thought that was interesting, but again, more for us to pursue, and it's going to take time.
Murray, I think you're on the right track. Partnering with the county is a good thing.
I think so,
You're
too.
working all day, but Kevin Gentry's working for us.
That's right.
And he wants to
He
make
does.
things better. So, this is an ideal situation called partnership.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope
That's
so.
right.
That's what I'd press that.
Yeah,
Well, he's the next stop.
very good.
Well, can I just make a comment that I responded to the survey, and I think I got caught by one of the questions, and my time band was only 5 to 10. I actually am on mine all day,
Oh, I know it. Me too.
and but I didn't hit that button for the first 2 time bands. But my personal experience is I haven't had problems like everybody else has had. I don't know why.
I know, it's fascinating.
But I
There are
think,
pockets.
but there are a number of variables that impact performance at each site, each address. That is, if you haven't changed your modem in a while, if you don't have your modem on some kind of lightning suppressor or electronic suppressor to prevent spikes from impacting that modem, then you'll have a defective modem, and you don't really know it, but it's not performing up to snuff. The other thing I'd like to mention is, I don't know how many people we have in our community. I know that I've worked with some that have absolutely very little experience with this kind of thing, and when they're posed with this challenge, they don't even know where to start. And so it could be that they're getting bad service because they haven't checked their modem, they haven't checked their lightning protection, and the whole host of things. So I'm very appreciative of what you're doing.
There are a lot of variables.
Which
Which was why all we were querying was outages. You know,
right.
was the just the quality of the connection coming in. So,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a possibility that you could have a class to talk to people.
That's an interesting thought.
That'd be good.
Maybe Breezeline could deliver it.
There
You
you
almost
go.
need
That's a good idea.
one-on-one.
Yes.
The county did the same thing you're talking about doing, by getting to Breezeline and talking to them. And Lyd Kimbrough, over time, seemed to feel like things got better for them. So it may just be a situation where we need to keep talking.
Right,
You
and
know?
trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
right.
No,
Well, and the other problem is, I think our average age here is like 67,
Exactly.
which
so-
means that most of us do not have a 12-year-old child living with us who can help us through these things.
now, Mary, I want you to know that
Yes.
since you started this survey, where I said I had good service on Kent Street, now I get drops all the time.
Is it my
And,
fault?
and I never get much above 50
Yeah,
down,
I know.
even though I'm supposed to have higher. And so I don't know what you did, but they're taking it from
I'm
me and
so
putting it in
sorry.
other places.
I am so sorry.
Well,
They're not giving it to me, I can assure you
So
of that.
bottom line is I want to change my vote.
the technical follow-up then is you're going to let us know, or they're going to let you know and you'll pass on to us when they fix that lens.
That
so
I think
we
is,
can-
is kind of the next tech part,
Yeah,
tech
so
piece of it.
if we-
And then we'll talk with, and I think there's some interest in doing a secondary survey after they do some fixes to see if there is an improvement.
Yeah.
And I said, well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
Well,
and-
and I
and
would,
see.
I would suggest that Mr. Chalimi put it in the paper when they get that lens fixed or
Yeah,
whatever it is, so
yeah.
that people will be alerted to look for this.
Yes.
That, what I sent you came from their PR department.
Oh,
So
did it?
I have a contact now that if you want to ask them questions and get their official response.
I'll send you an
I
email
need
and maybe
all
you
of
can,
you can
send it to me?
questions to me, and I can send it on to them.
Oh, got it.
And say, I've had good luck getting stuff out of Hampton Roads and VDOT with their PR people. I mean,
Ah.
you can ask very technical questions and you'll get an answer. I don't know what you're gonna get out of these people,
It's
but,
worth a try.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
And that concludes the Planning Commission's report.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, it is now time for public comment. Has anyone signed up?
Roy had his hand up.
Roy, you had your hand up, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's true. That's true. Okay. May I say something more? And that is that we received word this last week that we have officially been accepted, our application has officially been accepted for the Exploring Main Street program. And we're in the process of trying to set up a call with Kyle Meyer to talk more about, one of the things that we want to do is figure out what kind of the annual funding cycle is on a lot of the grant opportunities, because I don't know what they are. I hear about things and think, oh, that's great. Well, that one's August 1st. And so many of these are annual, and so they're recurring. And so I want us to be able to come up with a calendar of, when various kinds of grant applications are due. Then it's going to be a matter of figuring out how we're going to apply for various ones, because there are a lot of opportunities. So anyway, I think that's exciting. Thank you for the reminder on that, right? Did I get it? I got it. Okay. Yeah, I got it.
Thanks, Roy. Did anyone sign up for public comment? Nope. Well, that makes that one fast.
You might advise some people that have come late that there has been a change in the agenda, because there are two ladies here that might want to speak to the changed item.
Well, when we get to it,
We're going to cover the,
we'll
yeah.
cover
You'll let
it.
them talk then, okay.
Oh.
I doubt
in
that
terms
it's-
of not signing up, not having an
Yeah, they
opportunity.
haven't
No,
signed up,
No,
everybody.
that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so public comment is done. We don't need to respond to nothing. And now we've got a presentation from our town attorney, Andrea Arard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mhm.
Which, do I hit okay?
No, it's just the scroll button underneath, okay? The round button around, okay? Go for up and down.
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
That looks like Lincoln Memorial or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So
Those Corinthian
there's
columns.
nothing bad in this. Last year, I had the honor of announcing a host of complicated regulations about COVID.
Yeah,
There's none of that in here this year.
uh-huh.
Good.
Okay, okay.
All right.
You're scrolling down. Here.
What building in Urbana has those columns?
Just tell me when to scroll.
Okay. All right, well then, yeah, okay, we'll do it this way. So a piece of legislation that is good, that has been, enacted is that, we have to do these required notices. And sometimes the newspaper maybe makes a mistake, they forget to run it, or there's, only part of the ad gets run. This provision allows us to go ahead and have the public hearing as long as we rerun the ad at the next available opportunity. So it's kind of like a curing provision. I think that's really good.
That's no
Is-
charge, right?
Yes,
They have,
usually it is.
they put it in the paper.
Is
along
that
with
presuming that the next publication opportunity would be prior to taking action on it?
No?
Okay,
Yeah?
huh,
Okay.
Interesting.
yeah.
House Bill 384. This basically codifies the First Amendment. It says that employees can come to citizens' time or a public hearing and express their views and that they can't be punished for it.
Okay.
Boards of zoning appeals, they have the ability now to make a formal request for funding. And if they do, it is required that the governing body consider it. It doesn't have to be granted, but it does have to be considered.
So you can't ignore them.
Can't ignore them.
Okay.
You say funding, you're talking about they want so much per meeting or something like that?
No, most of the time it's for staff support, attorneys to advise the BZA.
Okay.
Because they have to have their own attorney, in the event that, like, I could not represent the BZA because I represent you, be an ethical conflict. So,
Thank you.
making copies, things like that.
Okay.
This is an interesting bill, House Bill 911. It allows for us to, by ordinance, give tax credits or credits against fees for persons who do volunteer activities in the town. And it has language in it that's broader than just the first responders. You know, it says individuals who perform volunteer services to a nonprofit organization or to the locality. So that's pretty broad language.
Yeah, it's
And
wide open.
It sure is.
Yeah.
So the credit could
So
be
if,
anything.
if the credit's not available to be used against property taxes, which would include both real estate and private property, right? Personal property. Is that the way, yeah, it doesn't really,
Go back.
Go back.
Yeah.
it doesn't really distinguish, I
Know
mean,
that it
Against any
Bill's been-
Property taxes.
Shall not be
Against
applied.
It says property
says
taxes.
property
Yeah,
taxes.
so that includes real estate.
but it doesn't establish a rate.
No.
No, so you can't use it against your property.
Well, it gives the
You might
localities
be able to use it
discretion.
against your personal property. I can pull it and look.
Yeah, I was curious
Yeah.
about that. I
It
mean,
says any
so
property.
what's the value of it?
Well, if it's a restaurant.
Well,
it
if
may-
you
it may
read
be
the- No, no, no.
Meals tax.
If you read the bottom, it says the bill gives localities the discretion to determine which taxes or fees are permissible uses and the credit and which services qualify. So the localities determine that.
Well, I know that. So my question is, what else would you use it
I'll pull
against?
the bill. I'll pull the bill.
I mean, that's my question. What else would we use these credits for? There's a lot of people that do volunteer service,
Including us.
including
Yeah,
us.
Right.
So we can't get a credit against property taxes. What can we get a credit for? That's my question.
Come to my door and pick up my trash.
Well, we'll think about it for
There-
further discussion.
there
But
you
I
go.
mean, yeah.
It'll be interesting to track too what other similar localities,
Yeah, what's a-
what the rate is. In other words, how they quantify
Right.
what
Right.
that is. That'll be fascinating.
It seems like this is opening up a real can of worms.
Yeah, sure it
Yeah,
is.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it.
But if you go to the original presentation of the bill as it was presented, there's always a
Yes.
preamble that tells you what they're trying to achieve. And what we probably need to do is look at that preamble.
I think the Hayes should get $400 an hour for working on the park.
I agree.
No, I think you should get $500 an hour.
No, we just don't tax their cars. Okay.
And in other news, the Virginia Code Commission, they have a committee or a work group that is looking at all of the notice requirements in the Code of Virginia. And the idea is for them to come back by November 1st to make recommendations about what information is in the notices, the timing of the notices, how many times the notices have to run, and to see if it can be improved.
Okay.
So we are required to report data or cybersecurity breaches within 24 hours. They have to be reported to the Virginia Fusion Intelligence Center. And then it also says that in this legislation,
Confusion.
that there will be a work group to review the current cybersecurity reporting and information sharing practices guess with the intent of enhancing it, because there've been quite a few cybersecurity threats, especially to local governments. Flood resiliency. This is House Bill 516, and it implements the recommendations from the first Virginia Coastal Resilience Master Plan. There are guidelines for the development of a Virginia Flood Protection Master Plan, and it has to be updated by December 31st, and then every 5 years thereafter. There's also a technical advisory committee that has been established to help with the updates, and it requires the development of a community outreach and engagement plan. So I thought that this would be something that would be of particular interest to us, given where we're located. Delegate Hodges introduced a piece of legislation that requires every locality in Tidewater, Virginia, which is us, to put on the website how we are implementing the requirements of the Chesapeake Bay Act. And I've included,
Yep, that's a planning
Oh, I
commission
just killed
question.
Roy.
I know it.
but I included in here, just for your entertainment, that Tidewater is defined as Accomack, Arlington, Caroline, Charles City, Chesterfield, Essex, Fairfax, Gloucester, Hanover, Henrico, Isle of Wight, James City, King and Queen, King George, King William, Lancaster, Matthews, Middlesex, New Kent, Northampton, Northumberland, Prince George, Prince William, Richmond, Spotsylvania, Stafford, Surrey, Westmoreland, and York, and then it lists the cities. So Tidewater is not what we customarily think of as Tidewater when you're talking
This is
Chesapeake Bay Act.
anything that's on a major waterway. Potomac River, Rappahannock River, James River.
Or tributaries
Hanover's
too.
not
Yeah.
a major
Yeah, it's
waterway.
Tributaries too.
contributing tributaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just about everywhere.
House Bill 150 now implements a local requirement that minutes must be posted on our website within 7 days after they are approved. Not after the meeting, 7 days after they're approved, and that is working days.
Okay.
The state entities have been having to do this for a while, so it's just,
So if we don't ever approve the minutes, we don't have to
That's
post
right.
them.
That's right.
Now you wind up approving them all at the end of the year.
that's true, but they're still public records, even if they're in draft form.
Yeah.
House Bill 307. In the past year, I've heard of many, many instances where somebody got an outrageous bill or estimate for a request for records. In Loudon, a mother asked for some records from the school board, and they quoted her $36,000.
Oh,
What?
Oh, that's
Oh.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we have this law that says we are required to make all reasonable efforts to provide records at the lowest possible cost. And when we get a FOIA request, we have to notify the person in writing that we have a right to make reasonable charges, and that if they want an estimate, that we will provide it to them. So it kind of imposes another step in responding to a FOIA request.
So that's where you get a credit. A volunteer credit could go against your.
Your FOIA.
Well,
FOIA
this
bill.
also helps prevent a municipality or a business from making it punitive if somebody makes a
That's right.
FOIA request.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the suspicion that these costs are being used to discourage people from accessing records, so, yeah.
Exactly.
And it doesn't prevent it, it just makes them explain the level of
It-
punishment.
Theoretically.
$36,000 makes them,
Ridiculous.
Yes.
they're not gonna do it.
So, House Bill
They did it for that
734, you probably remember, or maybe not, from last year, Garth may remember, because it's law enforcement. The General Assembly passed legislation that really opened up almost all law enforcement records. last year. And this bill walks that back. It kind of closes the door a little bit in terms of records. It defines who's entitled to access certain types of records. And in my opinion, they've really made it cumbersome because they talk about the classes of people and who can get what, and sometimes they can come look at it, but sometimes they can take the records away, but then they have to return them within 30 days. I don't know how that's gonna work,
Wow.
but yeah, criminal records continue to be a hot topic.
We don't have any of that though, do we? Here in town?
We don't have any criminals here.
Yeah. No, criminal records.
No.
Well,
Right.
that's, we
Never
don't have
been
courts in
caught
town.
yet.
It's really.
So Senate Bill 152 is a piece of legislation that addresses a situation that arose in the town of Pound out in Wise County.
Oh,
They had a FOIA issue, and there was a ruling from a local judge that their website was not the official government website because it wasn't a .gov. And so now we have it in state law that you don't have to have a .gov for it to be your official government website.
Oh my gosh.
wow.
Okay.
I'm nitpicking.
That's the law. That's the way law
That's
works.
what our taxpayers,
Local
money goes to.
state and local, but I'll just address local. Local election officials cannot accept money, grants, property, or services from a person or a non-governmental entity for the purpose of funding voter education and outreach programs, voter registration programs, or any other expense incurred in the conduct of elections. Elections, there was a lot of legislation about elections. I didn't give you all of them, but
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. So we can't buy votes.
No,
No vote buying.
you can't do that, that's bad.
How
This,
about moonshine?
You can do whatever you want, Bill. You're
Yeah,
not running.
That's right. That's right.
Vote for me, you get a bottle of moonshine.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead.
You're not on the ballot.
really, I included this as a PSA. A lot of times with elders, and financial abuse, it's kind of like a chicken and egg, whether the financial institution can call social services, and if social services calls the financial institution, whether they can get access to the records. And this clears it up that, those two entities can talk to one another if there's concern about someone being financially exploited.
That's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The Marcus Alert system, the implementation has been bumped until July 1, 2023, and it's optional for localities with a population of 40,000 or below. So that's kind of a big chunk out of that law, because it was supposed to be for everybody. And again, this doesn't really relate to what we have in the town, but I thought I would mention it. You know, our law enforcement get caught up in having to transport people who have been TDO'd or who may be TDO'd, and they end up taking them sometimes to the emergency room and waiting with them there until a bed becomes available,
Oh,
which can be
yeah.
several days.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And
What is
so there are two bills that passed. This is the first one. It says that if there is a person available from the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services, they can be an alternate transportation provider.
Define TDO, please.
Temporary detention
Detention
order.
order
Okay.
against
Thank
the
you.
person's will.
And so this next one also allows for auxiliary police officers to transport and be an
Okay.
alternate
Not just law
transportation provider. DCJS is supposed
there
to
it is.
have some training
Yeah.
requirements for these auxiliary police
Yeah.
officers, just for you, Garth.
We said,
Land use approvals have been extended again. This has been going on for a couple of years now. Our updated emergency management assessment is now gonna be due August 1 instead of May 1. Here's my favorite. The governor and members of the General Assembly can enter the interior of any local correctional facility.
They were not allowed to before?
I guess not.
Why would you?
Okay.
Yeah,
Law is always
I think it's odd.
And you would want to because
swirly circumstance.
no.
It doesn't say that.
Oh man.
My guess is that it gives them greater access to assess the conditions.
Oh, I
because
see.
There has been a lot of,
I got you.
Cover up.
well, concern about the conditions at certain facilities.
Yeah, inhumane conditions.
Yeah. So surplus revenues. We, in the past, have been only able to return surplus real property tax revenues, and now we can return surplus personal property tax revenues. So we can do both.
What constitutes surplus?
Overpayments.
I don't
No,
think
it's,
so.
like Henrico County has been giving surplus payments back to the citizens. I think it's where,
Like the governor's, bill to give they added $2 billion surplus, and he's gonna give $200 back to every taxpayer.
Well, so in our case, like we have a $20,000, arguably, subject to review, $20,000 operating fund surplus from last year.
Right.
Our friend and counselor down there, Mr. Tuning, was arguing very hard that we should reduce the tax rate to achieve a $21,000 savings. Were you not, Mr. Shaney?
I certainly was, Mr.
Well, then, Mr.
Holberg, is that who's
Mr.
speaking down
Yes,
there?
Mr. Shaney, you should be on point on this.
I've already been, you weren't at the last meeting,
no,
Mr.
no.
Holberg.
So anyway, the idea would be, hey, look, if we've got a $20,000 surplus, we got a couple of choices with that money. We could
and a lot of localities have done it with personal property this year because the assessments of used vehicles went up so much.
Right.
can we do it with real estate taxes?
Yes. You do
Okay.
Real estate and personal property.
So there you go, Mr. Tuning. You have the basis for a motion, I think.
I think we do. Want me to make that motion?
Not tonight.
I don't think
but
I'd get a
not
second.
shall. Okay. we
Can,
Okay.
yeah, it's subject
May,
to
but not shall.
our wisdom.
Let's stay on point, please.
It's very much on point.
Okay, so this one, I'm not gonna go into this one in detail, but it'll be of interest, to Michelle.
Ah.
They're looking at the whole system by which transient occupancy taxes are remitted. This legislation allows the property owner and like Airbnb to make a decision and reach an agreement as to who's gonna be responsible for remitting the taxes. And there's also a work group that is supposed to be looking at this issue and, making recommendations by October. So, it's not just us. I don't think that this applies to us, but I thought I would just include it. If you do your reassessment more than once every 4 years, this creates an additional public hearing and notice requirement as part of the budget process. And it cannot be on the same night as your budget hearing. So you would have to have this separate and apart from that. Right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
The exemptions for elderly and handicapped, right now, people can apply between January and April. And what this law does is it allows people to submit that application on a rolling basis throughout the calendar year.
What is the qualification?
If you have some discretion about how to do that, it's in the existing statute. You can kind of, they give you a range of criteria and you can set them. I'd be happy to give you more information.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
Okay.
We currently offer discounts of
Yeah.
veterans, and then the other part of it is income based.
Well, it doesn't say that, so that's why I was wondering what
Yeah.
the criteria were. Is it? Okay,
We follow the county.
okay.
Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
No bad news?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That brings us to old business.
We've already covered the boundary line adjustment
Okay,
in my report.
which brings us to the addition to the agenda, which is before us. This is an agenda item summary, Latany Montague Marina modification. And I'm going to let Roy explain this, or do you want to, Garth? Okay, go ahead. Okay.
With, Latany Montague came in earlier in the week, and he had applied to make some modifications to the, roof of, his marina that is under construction down there. And, because he's requesting modifications, BMRC is requiring him to, go through the procedures, and he's got to get, not approval, but he's got to at least notify. We got notification from BMRC as well as meeting with him. And y'all have, diagrams of the, modification to the roof line that he is proposing. And if you look at the diagram, it actually brings his roof line more in line to look consistent with the roof line of our marina.
Right.
So we looked at it, talked about it, and even, Jay Woodward from BMRC, felt that the design would look much better and than the original application. So,
It basically looks like he's just adding an overhang, right?
That's right.
right,
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so there's no additional footprint to the marina
No.
itself.
no.
Because there was
And-
contention
Which
at
one
the
is it?
beginning about
Is
that.
it this
Yes.
one or is
And
it that
he's
one?
Well, it's at
lowering
different
the
sides.
roof
See,
line
what happens is,
of the height.
Oh,
Is it gonna be,
Which one does he want? This one?
and look
It's-
like Pizza Hut?
there, it's different views. See, this is the north-south elevation, so if you're looking
But
at the
anyway,
side,
our recommendation is
but
that we
the
approve
old
the
roof would have come
modifications,
to here,
to the marina
And now
as
it's just
he's
got an overhang.
requesting.
so it didn't change the pilings.
Up to y'all.
Okay, so basically what we're looking at is this has absolutely no negative impact, and it is probably an improvement. And he's gone through all the proper channels, and personally, I see no reason to do anything other than vote it through. Does anyone have something else to say?
Have these ladies that have come tonight got anything to say about this?
It's a good
As
thing.
long as the footprint's the same,
yeah.
and it doesn't go out into the,
Doesn't impede
Right.
anybody's
the
view.
dinghy dock, the boat ramp, which was a bone of contention, as long as none of that's, in this change, I don't have a problem.
And he's already gone through the VMRC approval, so all they need is our sign-off.
I move we go ahead and approve it.
Second,
Okay, motion's been made to approve and second. Any further discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. Larry?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Steve?
yes,
Bill?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
I did.
Okay. Passes, okay, so let's see. New business yearly report.
This is just a notification. It doesn't require a vote from council. We are in the process of working on a yearly report for fiscal year 21-22 to show the activities of the past year, of the town, and also provide a financial, status of the town. And the data of
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have any other announcements? Bill, do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? Goldsmith, Bill and Bill. Okay, Larry,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Steve,
Yeah.
Bill, Mayor.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, we are adjourned.
Oh, man.